Public notice to the World Bank of national identity theft. August 22, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. Today, we are all familiar with the crime of identity theft. Some white-collar thief finds a way to impersonate us and to thereby access our credit cards, bank accounts, and other financial assets. We start seeing unfamiliar charges showing up, and then we have to report it to the bank, and the bank has to investigate and correct the records. This is public notice to the World Bank that such an identity theft has occurred at a national level. This whole concept of identity theft resulting in credit fraud was by no means as familiar a century and a half ago when the greatest impersonation scheme and credit theft in history occurred. Not only was the crime itself virtually unknown at the time, but it occurred on such a vast scale as to stun the imagination. In the chaos and confusion at the end of the so-called American Civil War, the thieves saw their chance. Our American states of states have been impersonated by British territorial states of states ever since, and as a result, the credit of our entire country has been commandeered and abused by these foreign interests for almost 160 years. As an entire country, we have been defrauded in exactly the same way as Joe Schmo waking up and seeing unfamiliar charges on his credit card statement. I was emailing back and forth this morning with a man from Illinois who has fought the issues of constitutional money for years without satisfaction, and it struck me that people still don't understand the issues and identities involved. Here is what I wrote back to him. The answer is quite simple. Illinois has always been and remains on the gold and silver standard. State of Illinois has always dealt in credit and debt and legal tender. Two different entities existing in two different realms of existence. Two different jurisdictions. Notice in the constitutions that the states operate only on gold and silver, but Congress only has credit and regulatory fees collected from alcohol, tobacco, and firearms to work with. Illinois is party to the constitutions. State of Illinois is not. State of Illinois is a foreign British Commonwealth, also called territorial government. It began usurping upon and substituting itself for our American states of states when the Confederation fell apart in 1860. They basically pretended to be our states of states and gained access to our credit the same way any identity thief does it, then proceeded to spend our credit into the stratosphere, leaving us with the bill. But now the fraud has been discovered. Our states and people need to be held harmless in the same way that any victim of identity theft must be held harmless. And we are not responsible for the debts these foreign pikers piled up in our names. It is these last 2 points that need to be most forcefully addressed. Our states and people are not responsible for this circumstance nor for these charges. The general populace was never given full disclosure about these cozy arrangements being made for us, and nobody making these changes had any granted authority to do it. The only difference that was potentially observable by Joe average American was a change from, for example, the state of Vermont, before the Civil War, to the state of Vermont afterward. The Queen, the Pope, and the Lord Mayor of London, all acting in breach of trust against us, are the responsible parties and beneficiaries of this scheme, together with American collaborators who promoted this scheme and profited from it. The states of the Union and the people of this country are serving notice on the World Bank through our unincorporated Federation of States, the United States of America, that we have been the victims of the aforementioned bunco scheme for the past 159 years. We are taking appropriate action to finish the reconstruction of our federal government and the resumption of normal business activities. Until this can be accomplished in full, our unincorporated Federation of States, the United States of America, is the appropriate respondent. In addition to the misapplication of charges against our credit by a certain Scottish commercial corporation doing business as the United States of America Incorporated, from 1868 to 1906, and other incorporated territorial and municipal entities presuming to do business in our names, ever since, we wish to address the ownership of over 20,000 tons of privately held gold confiscated by the municipal United States government under the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration and the return of American gold reserves illegally transported to the Philippine Islands. Sincerely, Anna Maria Riesinger, Fiduciary the United States of America, C.O. Box 520994, Big Lake, Alaska, 99652.